with Francesca.
Thank you, Chair. We do have a quorum.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. So good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. This is our first executive meeting of the year. It's January 14, 2022. And before we begin, I'd like to ask our interpreter, Ruth, to introduce herself and walk through how to access our interpretation services. So go ahead, Ruth.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I'll repeat the message that follows in English. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma. Gracias. To use the Zoom interpreting feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are located. Click on the interpretation icon, which is the world icon, and select English as your language. If you are joining using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we have item number 1, which is public comments. So do we have non-agenda public comments or non-agenda member comments? First, we'll take the public comments. Francesca?
Thank you, Chair. I do see one hand up from the public. Catherine Rhodes, you can go ahead when you're ready. You'll have 3 minutes.
Lovely. Good morning. This is Catherine Rhodes. And what I wanted to talk about is asking you to have new state legislation to move all capital improvement planning and development projects and the billions in dedicated funding from the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority to SANDAG. Back in 2000, when the port and the airport used to be together, and the port was had so much money because of all the airport revenue. And so what happened is in 2002, there was a split. There was new state legislation to split the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority from the Port of San Diego and take their associated billions of dollars in revenue with them. And that was because they were tasked to put onto the ballot a move of the San Diego International Airport from the downtown area to Miramar. And so they put it on the ballot and it failed. The other reason the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority was created was to create the 16 regional airport land use compatibility plans. So it took them, 18 years to actually do these 16 plans. And the final one was actually for NAS North Island, and that was October 1st, 2020. So the San Diego Regional Airport Authority literally doesn't really need to be in place. But what I am suggesting is that that the Regional Airport Authority be similar to the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System and North County Transit, in that SANDAG is in charge of the planning and the funding and the development of the capital improvements, and MTS and the airport would be in charge of the day-to-day operations. And what that would do, it would take the billions of funding. This will allow the SANDAG to take in billions of dollars in funding for transportation projects for the region without a public vote, without a tax increase. So this is a, it's a very easy way. And, back in the day, Steve Peace was a person who, created the law to split the airport from the port. And he said long time ago that, it was no longer needed. And so I just would recommend that you put forward legislation so that these unelected people at the airport are not, hoarding the funds that they have been for years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That does conclude the public commenters.
Okay, thank you. And let me see if we have any board member non-agenda comments. I don't see any hands up. Okay. So next we have our consent. So I'm going to pull item 3 off of that. I've already had a request from an executive committee member to do that. And I would entertain a motion on the balance of consent.
So move, Chair.
Second. Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and vote on the balance.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
For East County, Mayor Vasquez.
Aye.
Thank you. For North County Coastal, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
For North County Inland, Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Thank you. And for South County, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Solis, aye.
Thank you, and that does pass unanimously.
Okay, thank you. So item number 3 is the budget amendment to implement the community benefits agreement. And Mayor Voss pulled this item. And I just want to say in advance of talking about this item that I did ask at my briefing yesterday, I asked staff a lot of questions about specifically what this $300,000 is going toward, because we know that we're working in a revenue constrained environment, and we want to make sure that we're prioritizing in the big picture. And so, when we have little things come here and there, it can be hard to really have an assessment of that. So basically this falls into these 3 buckets of training, communications, and then contract compliance. And just by way of comparison, MTS is also doing something similar, but their amount is much higher that they are allocating for the same thing. So, the board has moved forward with a community benefit agreement. And so in order for that to be effective, we need to allocate money to implement it. So I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of context to this item, because if we do support a community benefits agreement, so we need to be able to fund its implementation. So I'll turn it over to staff, but I just wanted, it was Mayor Voss that pulled this, so I wanted to give him the chance to speak first before we have a staff presentation.
Really no need to speak, just can't support it.
Okay. Does anybody else want a staff presentation on this, or should we just have a vote on it? Okay, I think we should just, unless Victoria, you want to say something, I think we should just go ahead and vote on it.
No, thank you.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion on item 3 then.
I move approval, Chair.
Solis, second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
For East County, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, aye.
Thank you. For North County Coastal, Chair Blakespear.
Aye.
For North County Inland, Mayor Voss.
No.
And for South County, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Solis, aye.
Thank you very much. And that item does pass with 5 yeses and 1 no.
Okay, thank you. So now we are on to our legislative report. So Anna, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and enjoying the new year. To that point, there's been a lot of activity up at the state. On January 10th, the Governor Newsom released his 2022-2023 proposed budget, and this kicks off the annual state budget process. And at this point, as the legislature will begin analyzing his proposal with the goal of ultimately passing the budget bill by June 15th of this year. And that would be signed by the governor no later than July 1st. Excuse me. As such, the Senate Budget and Fiscal Review Committee is scheduled to meet on the 19th of January for an initial overview discussion on the governor's proposal. And then subsequently to that, the Budget Subcommittee in both houses will begin analyzing the budget with the May revised and mid-May. So to that point, the overall governor proposed budget is $286 billion. That's a lot of money, which represents about 9.1% increase from last year. And that's based on the projected $45.7 billion surplus. And the budget also includes $34.6 billion in budgetary reserves. And so that includes things like almost $21 billion in Proposition 2 budget stabilization account. So that's like a rainy day fund. 9.7 billion in public school system stabilization, and so on and so forth. And so I think things to think about, the focus of this budget, it was very transportation heavy, very climate heavy, very housing specific, and then a lot of equity was discussed throughout the budget. So as we kind of move towards May, things to also consider as we're listening to the discussions is the proposed gas tax holiday, which is interesting. And so according to the governor, the state is on track to reach our Senate Bill 1 statutory goal of having 98% of our pavement and 90% of our culverts in good or fair condition. And so with that just offers an opportunity and acknowledging the challenges around COVID, it offers an opportunity to consider perhaps not increasing that at this time. All of this to say that there is a lot of money that really aligns nicely with the work and the priorities of the agency. Really looking at things like how we can continue to find some funding to stabilize the bluffs, considering additional funding for mobility hubs and other opportunities to continue to implement the 2021 regional plan. So as the budget budget conversations continue to unfold, we look forward to coming back to you all and sharing a bit more about what's transpired and how Sandag can continue to position itself to receive these funds. One thing of note also is that the state, what we've heard from a number of state agencies is that the governor's budget is really intended to also position the state to competitively compete for a lot of the funds that are coming from the federal government as well. So there's a lot of intent and strategy considered as the budget was being developed. So it is obviously a draft, and we will be back, as I mentioned, as the budget discussions continue to unfold. But look forward to seeing how this transpires. And in the meantime, we do have Kirk Blackburn on the line if folks have more detailed questions about things that have been included in the proposed budget. He is with Allison Wilson, and he is our legislative our lobbyist up at the state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see Mayor Satoslis with her hand up. Go ahead.
Buenos dias, everyone. And yes, Happy New Year. One of the things that I did just want to ask our Sandag staff and our lobbyists is, as we look at these funds, if we could, as a board, just notify our colleagues, the board as a whole, that of what prerequisites or letters or things that people need to have in order to be eligible for those resources. Let's just say it's, funding left-hand turn lanes. Well, you need to have a resolution about left-hand turn lanes, as we know that some of those policies do take time, even if it's just to agendize it and have it and get that moral support from our colleagues and the staff, or if there has to be something in our general plan that identifies it or what have you. I think that's essential for all of us to have that readiness to make the ask. I don't know if Kirk, you had any thoughts on that or any feedback, but through the chair, if I could ask that, that'd be
Oh, that's
Mike
great
Hart.
feedback. No, I appreciate that. And we'll certainly carry that message as we go forward.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Chair. That was it.
Okay, thank you. Anna, was that the end of the legislative report, or do you and Hector have more?
I would like to hand things over to Hector. Thank you.
Morning. I'm glad to be with you again and to offer you a little bit of a border perspective. Last time I came to report was in November of last year. And as you know, since then, your land border crossings are now operating with less restrictions. Trade was, before COVID and during COVID, trade has been flowing with no restrictions. But you remember, during the pandemic, only US citizens, US residents, and US essential workers were permitted to cross, and volume and wait times were very high. Well, now those restrictions are lifted, and international travelers can come to San Diego, proving they have been vaccinated. CBP has estimated that there is about 30% more people crossing than in 2021 pre-COVID numbers. But it is still early to evaluate if this is just because of the peak of the holiday season or because more and more Americans are moving to Mexico, which is a phenomenon that we saw during the pandemic. Without a question, now we know that we have a community, cross-border community that we share with Mexico. People, Americans that have moved maybe the roof to Mexico, but they haven't moved their lives from the United States. And this cross-border community is almost of the size of the city of Escondido. Is big. But now, speaking of our projects, I want to refer that on November 16 of last year, Senator Alexander Padilla addressed the Senate's Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, urging Customs and Border Protection, better known as CBP, to add capacity to our land border crossings. In particular, Senator Padilla referred to Otay Mesa East, our project, requesting that this future port of entry is considered and included in CBP's staffing model, and also that GSA be prepared to receive this in their inventory. Adding that reducing delays will not only facilitate trade, but will also improve impacts to the environment. And just before Thanksgiving, the new ambassador of the United States to Mexico, the Honorable Ken Salazar, visited our border region, and his agenda included the humanitarian crisis, but also major infrastructure projects. Some of you had the opportunity to meet with him, and Sandag and Caltrans hosted a visit to the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry construction site. Ambassador Salazar, a former US Senator and a former Secretary of the Interior, is now our voice in Mexico City and an important voice also in DC. Ambassador Salazar is planning to return to San Diego in February, mid-February, and we will let you know. And while this is happening, your Otay Mesa East team is working with US and Mexican agencies to advance the project, addressing technical, legal, and financial matters. Last week, your team requested your Transportation Committee to recommend that the Board of Directors approve an amendment to the fiscal year 2022 program budget, accepting almost $25 million of the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. This report is going to your board meeting right after this, later today. And before I conclude, I want to refer to AB 617, which is the Community Air Protection Program that led CARB to establish a community air protection program to reduce exposure in communities most impacted by air pollution. Currently, the portside communities are designated as an AB 617 community, and in 2019 were selected to develop a community emissions reduction plan, CERP, which was completed last summer. Sandag sent a letter supporting the San Diego Air Pollution Control District nomination to select the international border community, which includes the community of San Isidro and Otay Mesa, for a community air monitoring program and community emissions reduction program. Calenviro Screen 4.0 shows that the international border community census tract have the highest traffic impact percentile across the state and are in the 93+ percentile for exposure to PM 2.5. Therefore, additional monitoring is needed to reduce the elevated pollution levels and better protect residents in the communities of San Isidro and Otay Mesa. And with this, I am concluding my report, and we are available to answer if you have questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Hector. We appreciate that. Thank you to our government relations team as a whole for the update and for the work you do. And before I ask for any member comments, do we have any public comments on this?
Thank you, Chair. We do have one hand up from the public. Catherine Rhodes, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Lovely, thank you. This is Catherine Rhodes, and I wanted to ask basically what I asked during a non-agenda public comment. If someone from Sandag could ask your legislative people to look into moving the capital improvement projects from the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority to Sandag. I know you just talked away how to implement your regional plan. This is literally a way to implement your regional plan because, you know, in 2019, the airport authority finally said that they would give you money. I'm not sure if they actually spent any of this money yet, but they said, you know, they were going to give you $515 million of normally restricted FAA airport revenue. And now they were going to give you 350 for on and off-site airport transit projects and 165 million for the planned multimodal corridor. And so this is literally a way where you can do quite a few different things at the same time if you had access to these billions of dollars, not just 550 million, but the billions of dollars. At 550 million is only 55% of the revenue that the airport authority takes in. The other, and that 55% is from the concessions, from parking. And then the other 45% of the airport revenue that you still don't have access, that Sandag, our elected officials, still do not have access to, is the airport revenue coming from airport operations and fees that passengers like myself and you pay when we fly. So anyway, if you, if you moved the capital improvement projects to our elected officials instead of these unelected officials that were giving you false information for almost 20 years, that these funds couldn't be used off the airport, then you could have a way to not only fund your central mobility hub, but you could also have a corridor that reaches from Pacific Beach all the way down to the border. Specifically, this is literally a way you can do this without raising taxes. And so if someone at Sandag could tell these people to look into a way to do that, that would be wonderful. And, it's free money that literally belongs to all of us, and we have not had access to it. Thank you so much.
Chair, that concludes the public commenters.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. And thank you, Francesca. So do we have any member comments? Don't see any hands up. So this meeting now is about to be adjourned. So our next meeting is February 11th at 8 a.m. And I will see you all at 9 a.m. for our board meeting. So with that, we're adjourned.